It is 6:15 in the morning. Sun has not come up yet. Got my coffee. And Fred has just left for work. He's a couple minutes late, but it happens. He's not going to be late for work. It's only a 10-minute drive. That's called the early morning babble. But with all the tomatoes that you guys saw in my little haphazard little garden tour, that didn't include the 5 bags of tomatoes that I have in the freezer. I've officially, big truck. Good morning, big truck. I have officially run out of room in the freezer, so we're gonna start canning tomatoes. That is 4 1-gallon bags of tomatoes. Now, yeah, there are stems and everything on these tomatoes. So, oh gosh, look at me this morning. Yeah, I quite literally woke up, I think 20 minutes ago, so forgive me. I'll look cuter later. But the way I do the tomato sauce, my tomatoes don't come in all at once. It happens. It's starting to warm up in there. It's starting to sizzle. So all I do is when they ripen, they get washed, they get put on trays, they get frozen, and then stuffed in gallon bags. When I have enough ready, then we start cooking them down. Now, I really admit, for how many tomatoes that we do, I don't need an electric food mill for tomatoes or a tomato mill. I just use a manual mill. I'll show that to you when we get ready to actually can them, because these will take quite a while to cook. Oh, it's a workout. Definitely a workout. That's the other reason why I only cook 1 pot at a time. All right, so these are going to start cooking and thawing out. Now that the pot is hot, I'm going to turn the temperature down, put the lid on. They're going to let sit. I'm going to let them sit and start to cook. Probably about an hour or so. We'll give them a bit of a stir. Give them another hour. They're going to cook all morning until I go to work. Then I'm going to shut them off. They're going to get cold. And then first thing in the morning, we're going to mill them. Normally, the way I do the tomato sauce, it's about a 2-day process because I do cook them from frozen, so you end up with a lot more water, but that's okay. That's not a problem. I'm all right with that. Kind of spread it out. All right. I'm gonna go make a coffee. Let me correct that. I have a coffee. Let me go drink my coffee. Yeah, it's really, really early. They're not quite there yet. There's still a little condensation, but we are starting to cook down. Like I said, there's a lot of liquid as it goes, and there are still frozen tomatoes in there. So they have been going for a little over an hour. They'll go for about 4.5 more hours before I shut them off today before work. It has been 2 hours. They are cooking down, so most of them have broken. I'll go through and, you know, break any tomatoes in there that may still need to be popped, so to speak. I actually even have room for the little half a bag of tomatoes, but then I'll run out of jars, so. All right, this is going to simmer away like this still for 3.5 hours. It is time to mill the tomato sauce. So I still use this guy right here. Now, to be honest, if I had a big family, you know, still here, or a lot of family like really, really close, I would probably invest some in one of those electric like tomato mills. Apparently there's a couple of really, really good ones. I may invest on the one that goes onto my KitchenAid, but I'm not sure yet. As it is right now, I just put the smallest mill in my manual one, and that's how I take all the seeds and all the skins, etc. and so forth, and my tomatoes. It works well for me. So now this cooked down yesterday. Now that was 4-gallon bags of frozen tomatoes that were in here, and it was right to the top. So this cooked down for the majority of the morning. I shut it off about a half an hour before I went to work. And now it is almost actually to the consistency that I want for tomato sauce, and it is cold. I actually did have to warm it up a tiny bit because it was really cold. And, you know, safety first when you're dealing with food, of course. Milling the tomatoes when they're hot, I tend to splash so much, and I really didn't want to wear it. So let me show you how we're going to do this. All right, so all in all, this is all manual. I've got my big 8-cup measuring cup underneath because this fits on it really, really well. Forgot my spatula. And I just use a measuring cup. So, how we do it. It is just dump. Put a couple of scoops in there so you can see what I'm doing. And spin. Like I said, it's really, really, really easy. And what it'll do is it'll get all the skins, all the seeds, and the stems. Yeah, there's even stems in there. All I do with the tomatoes is I wash them, I put them on a small cookie sheet, and they get frozen in the freezer and then dumped in bags. That's all I do with my tomatoes. All right. And then as I go, let me get the spatula. I'm already making a mess. There we go. And that just gets dumped into the other stock pot. And then we're gonna cook it a little bit more. So I'm gonna go through all of this tomato, and then I'll show you our next step, because hey, it's a canning day. Tomato sauce is done. So we ended up with about 7 liters. So a hair over 7 quarts, which actually works. This is the reason why I like this pot. It actually has it listed there. You guys can't see that in the video. What am I doing that for? Anyway, this is the sauce. Now the consistency at the moment, it's actually not that far off of where I like it, because I actually do like it a little bit looser. But right now it's like a, I suppose not quite a passata. So by the time I'm done, it'll be kind of like when you buy the jars of passata in the grocery store. But check out the waist. That's it. There's my hand. See? This is actually my small glass bowl, and this is all the waste. Now if I had chickens, they'd be all over this. I don't have chickens. So milling the sauce in that little hand mill that I have, it took me maybe a half an hour. I just kind of took my time. Basically, you just spin it around. I put it in the big 8-cup measuring cup, pour it in my other 15-liter stock pot, and now it's going to cook probably about 2 hours. My jars are already clean and washed, which is fabulous. So, yeah, that's just gonna cook. Okay, so let's talk tomato sauce. Now, this is where we get into the food safety bit. Now, when you are a big time canner, if you do a lot of canning, you really, really should have pH strips so you can actually test the acidity of your water bath food. I don't have pH strips, and I keep kicking myself because I keep thinking I need to get them, and I totally forget. So there is a way around that when it comes to tomatoes to help get your acidity up, especially when you're not 100% sure. Ta-da-da-da! Okay, I'm just being foolish, but yeah, lemon juice. So if you're really not sure if the tomatoes that you found, the tomatoes that you grew, anything like that, if you don't think that they have enough acidity, or if you're unsure and you don't want to invest in the pH strips, just get some lemon juice. That's all you need. So the way it works out, one of these jars, you're going to put the equivalent of maybe a teaspoon in each one, give or take. So for that entire pot, once it's down to the levels that I want, I will end up adding probably about a 1/4 cup of lemon juice just for my own peace of mind. That's the way I like to do it. Nice and easy. Now there's lots of different ways to make tomato sauce. This is the way I do it. I freeze my tomatoes as they ripen, I put them in the pot, and I let them cook down. Nice and easy, right? Put them through the food mill, let it cook a little further, and then I follow the safe canning practices for tomato sauce. Nice and easy. I've said nice and easy how many times? I have no idea. Now there are other ways to do it. If you have an electric tomato mill, or if you have the one that goes on a mixer or something, or if you know someone has one of the bigger tomato mills, you can mill raw tomatoes if you want. Takes a while to cook them down, almost the same amount of time as how I do my frozen tomatoes. Or you can roast them in one of those big electric roasters. I would love one of those, but for me, economics wise, I'll never really use it as well or to its full potential. So I do it this way. But there are people that'll just take the tomatoes, put them in those electric roasters, and just let it roast on a lower temperature almost all night. That's the defrost fan, by the way, on the refrigerator. I will get a new fridge someday. Anyway, so those big electric roasters, you can kind of pile them all in there the night before, put them on a lower temperature and just let them do their thing overnight, and then mill them and can them. Now, raw tomatoes come out really watery when you mill them. So those you really do have to cook down. Frozen tomatoes really come out watery, so you have to cook those down. That's basically it. So food safety in a nutshell, 101 for tomato sauce. Go buy lemon juice. Well, the sauce is ready. So it's actually reduced down to, it says 6 liters on the side. So I'm hoping that I'll get all 7 jars. If I don't, we'll have a little bit left over probably, and that'll be pizza sauce for dinner tomorrow. So how it works. So when you're doing tomato sauce, it's 1/2 inch headspace. So remember we talked about the lids before, 1 inch and 1/2 inch, just use the rings. So these only need a 1/2 inch headspace. So we're going to ladle them in. Now I've already added the lemon juice and a little bit of salt. You don't have to add salt, but I kind of like how it just kind of enhances the flavor. So for this amount of tomato sauce, I added 1/4 cup of lemon juice and only a couple of teaspoons, like just basically spoonfuls of salt. And that's all I need. If I wanted spiced tomato sauce, I could add dried oregano, dried garlic. You could even put garlic in with the tomatoes when you're cooking them and put it through the food mill. That would be really good. Actually, now that I say that, I'd have to do that next time. All right, the canner though is ready to go. So I'm gonna fill these up. And then, of course, same as any other canning job. When you fill them up, clean the rings, use a lint-free paper towel or as lint-free as you can. Dip it in a tiny bit of vinegar. Kind of helps sanitize the lid and the rim. All the fun stuff. That one I got a tiny bit too much in. I'll take a spoon to that and we'll take some out. But look at that color. Doesn't that look fabulous? Now these are not quarts or pints, so these are halfway. These are 750 milliliter jars, and they will process for the same amount of time. So quarts and pints, you would process tomato sauce in a water bath canner for 15 minutes, depending on your elevation. So where I am, it's the full 15 minutes. If you were at a high elevation, you would go up to 20, or of course, match whatever the information you can find on the National Center for Home Food Preservation. There we go, 7 cans, 7 jars in the canner. All right, put these to bed. I can get that lid on. Come on, get in there. There we go. There we go. And now they're gonna heat. Yay! It works the same way as every other canning job. Clean the rims nice and well. Make sure you check for any nicks, whatever. Lids on, finger tight, or, well, hand tight. Don't crank them on. And then let them process. Now, the good thing about the tomato sauce when I'm making it, if one of these jars happens to fail, I can just take the lid off and freeze the jar. And when we make the next batch, I can just pour it in the pot and keep right on going. So, now we do have some left. So I'm going to reduce that down and we're going to make some pizza sauce. So let me show you how I make pizza sauce while we're at it. So I just left it in the big pot and it will reduce like really well. Lots and lots of surface area. And this is on like extremely low. Now for us, for pizza sauce, it's really not that much different than barbecue sauce. Or not barbecue sauce? Spaghetti sauce. But we actually make it with a lot more ingredients. I'm going to open the other side of this because that's coming out too slow. We have a fair amount of basil. I mean, like a fair amount of basil. And next is oregano. Not as much, but a little bit. Next is minced garlic. Now I do have garlic powder, but I like the minced garlic. So we're gonna add minced garlic. It's probably the equivalent of almost 2 cloves. And onion powder. So the only salt that's in here is that little bit of salt that we put in the tomato sauce itself when we actually prepped that. So this is going to sit and reduce, probably for quite a while. Alrighty guys, I'm going to let this start reducing and then I'll show you what the tomato sauce is all looking like when it's all done. The canner is done, so it's on cool down now. So it'll do its cool down. And once it says it's done, you can actually safely lift that lid. So if you're using just a regular water bath canner, that's exactly it. When your timer goes off, so yes, you're timing it, of course. Once it comes up to the nice rolling boil in a water bath canner, you start timing it for the 15 minutes, and then when the 15's done, turn the heat off, and then you let it sit. Now, I've discovered when I use my water bath or my steam canner, I usually let it sit longer because my glass top stove stays hot for a lot longer. An electric stove, not so much, which is great. This guy, though, I'm seriously beyond falling even more in love with this canner. So when it's done, it'll beep at me. I'll probably let it sit for another 5 minutes or so. And then we'll pull the jars out and we'll see if we have any happy pings on all those lids. Oop, happy ping. There we go, 7 jars. We already had a couple of pings, so now it'll take a minute. So as they cool, you'll start to hear the pings go off and the lids will seal. Don't be tempted to go push the seal down. So, like this guy's already down. So if it was popped up, don't be tempted to push it down. Ping! Now if you push them down, you do run the risk of ping, of getting a false seal. And we don't want that. You're making fabulous tomato sauce for your family, for yourself, for whoever, for friends, Christmas presents, do whatever you want to make it for. If you're not going to eat that much, they make great gifts. Follow safe canning practices to people that, trust your cooking, and mission accomplished, right? Now the tomato sauce that was left over, we made the pizza sauce. I mean, look at that. This is actually still hot because I just took it out of the pot. It tastes, by the way, phenomenal. Now, oops. I ended up putting a little bit too much basil in because when I shook it in, some of it actually, another ping, some of it went in that I didn't intend, but I'm not worried about that. It's not overpowering that tangy, fresh tomato flavor, so that's good. This is actually the same tomato sauce, sorry, pizza sauce that we make if I'm just making a pizza sauce and I'm gonna jar it. But this year we're not actually making straight up pizza sauce. We're gonna make a thicker tomato paste, which will be about that consistency, and we'll just add what we want to it. Works out better for me. But, like I was saying, another ping. Like I was saying, safe canning practices all the way around. Make sure you're following them. Clean your rims. Good quality veggies are a must. If you don't get all the tomatoes at once, do what I do. Put them in the freezer if you've got the freezer space. Tomatoes, yeah, they don't all ripen at the same time. A determinate tomato, wow, like aroma, generally they will ripen all at the same time, but most of the time, not close enough if you're just gonna do single batch canning like I do. Put them in the bag. Freeze them, core them if you want to, freeze them, and then put them in a bag. And when you're ready, cook them down. That's the way I do it. I find it easier. I do have more than one canner. If I had 3 or 4 bushels of tomatoes here that I needed to do all at once, that's a whole other story, okay? I would be cooking them, mixing them and everything. I wouldn't be storing them up. I'd have 3 canners on the go, but I don't can that way. I can single batch or maybe a double batch at a time, depending on what the product is. So in this case, single batch, but that gives us 7 more jars for the inventory. And so far, let me see, I have 2 more gallon bags almost filled in the freezer. And I have no idea how many tomatoes are currently on my dining room table, not including what's still out on the vines. So we will have more than enough tomato products for our winter season, all the way through till next season, I hope. Maybe. I guess I'll find out, because obviously the last time I made tomato sauce, I didn't make enough. Anyway, everybody, that was our canning adventure today. Simple, basic tomato sauce. Fabulous flavor. If you got the nice fresh tomatoes, comes out wonderful, and you can use it for your recipes for the rest of the year or a little longer, depending on how fast you use it. So don't forget, I'm going to link the link. So don't forget, see, let's try this again. I will put the link for the National Center for Home Food Preservation down below. It has all the basics for safe canning, altitude, lids, everything. Don't forget, a lot of those older canning recipes that were safe 30, 40 years ago that we all grew up with, that was with old hardware. Different types of materials that you use for lids and jars now. So yeah, they're great recipes. Ping. But make sure you follow the modern safe canning practices that match the modern safe canning products. Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for coming out as we do another adventure in Canning 101 the Tammy way. And we'll see you next time as we do our Simpler Life here on PEI. Bye for now.